Young couples weighed the trade-offs between a less frenetic and costly country life and the time and money spent commuting. An 1890 essay in the Times titled Men Who Catch Trains pointed out that commuting from the quaint and ancient settlement of Yonkers, just 16 miles from Grand Central, could cost as little as 9 cents a day, compared to the regular one-way fare of 30 cents. "I must be able to reach my place of business inside of an hour's time," declared the husband at the very beginning of the search for his suburban abode, the Times reported. "Of course you must," dutifully assented the wife, "and we cannot afford to spend all the difference in rent for railroad fares." For all the advantages of country living, commuting took its toll, as another Times writer estimated early in the 20th century. Figuring that it took him an hour to travel each way and that he had been commuting the 16 miles from Westchester for 14 years, he had averaged 9,600 miles and 600 hours annually for a grand total of 134,000 miles and 8,400 hours, or the equivalent of circumnavigating the globe 5 times over the course of nearly a full year. So much for George M. Cohan's proverbial 45 minutes from Broadway. Thanks to the railroad, things weren't much better for Manhattan pedestrians. In 1839, a train from Grand Central had collided with a herd of cows at rural East 58th Street. By the time the Civil War ended, though, row houses had already reached the East 60s. With development came people and vehicles and an outcry against the New York Central. It was bad enough that the railroad had usurped public property, obstructing 4th Avenue and the street grid with its depot. But the 600-foot wide rail yard and the tracks beyond, from which locomotives spewed smoke, sparks, and cinders, irretrievably bisected a booming swath of Manhattan's East Side. Crosstown traffic was stymied altogether or shunted to a few bottlenecks. In 1871, the Times all but shrieked that the city's most fearful death trap was the nexus of tracks laid only a few feet apart in a no-man's land, 2 blocks wide and north of Grand Central in this now populous quarter of the city. One is but to stand a few minutes in 45th Street, where the cars enter and pass out of the depot, to see the peril to which life is daily put, the paper continued, and to wonder that more people are not wounded or killed for their temerity in attempting a crossing. The feverish news account presaged the dangerous congestion and constant tumult that not only vexed pedestrians, drivers, and neighbors, but would ultimately be the depot's undoing. There is a continual ringing of bells and screaming of whistles that is confusing to the senses, awakened to the possibility of danger from an unknown or unseen quarter. Mass meetings were called to protest the inconvenience and the threat to life and limb north and south of the new depot. "Cross not 4th Avenue at the peril of your lives," is the dictum of the great Vanderbilt, one leaflet blazed in 1872. The perils posed by the railroad's juggernaut to pedestrians and horse-drawn conveyances even inspired a poem. "Sink your tracks, you railroad magnate, arch it over well and strong. Do not wait the law's stern mandate, and your nuisance thus prolong." One angry letter writer to the Times complained that someone living on East 46th Street near 3rd Avenue and wishing to go to 46th Street and 5th Avenue has to go to 42nd Street or 49th Street, making a detour of a half mile because this monopoly has made it unsafe to cross at any other point. Another resident, this one from East 50th Street, was apoplectic, writing, "There is no single thing on New York Island so dangerous to the community and prejudicial to its interests as this valley of the shadow of death, which cuts the city in two its entire length and stretches unpaved, ungraded, and is given over to the hundreds of locomotives that continually dash up and down through the richest district of New York." With the community up in arms and the Commodore demanding that the right-of-way be widened to accommodate 4 tracks, compromise was inevitable. Beginning at 45th Street, the grade was lowered. A dozen bridges were commissioned to connect the 2 sides of 4th Avenue between 45th and 56th Streets, where a Park Avenue tunnel would begin, leading to a stone viaduct between 98th and 116th Streets, where the land was swampy.